Hey everybody, this is your girl, Miss Analytical, coming to you straight out of NYC on this Wednesday evening. Hello. This is your girl, Miss Analytical, coming to you back with another video straight out of YouTube and also out of Spreaker.com. So the reason why I came back again to talk to you guys is because I really wanted to share something with you that I found out this afternoon. But it's really funny because I really was thinking about this literally all this week. And what happened was I came across an article about, on this day 30 years ago, the song Don't Be Cruel by Bobby Brown was released May 16th, 1988. Now, very interesting, this whole week I was really hearing the song Don't Be Cruel in my head, whether I was going outside to work, whether I was walking down the street to the store, whether I was in my house, fixing things up, or just, living my life. And throughout the whole week, I've been hearing Don't Be Cruel. I can't sing the whole lyrics because, then they're going to try to monetize my record, my video, and I'm not having it. But anyway, the reason why I want to make this video is because I want to share the importance of this record, because I really believe that this is one of the most important records to really come up out of R&B. And I really believe that this record changed the course of the music industry, particularly within R&B. And I have to also say that Bobby Brown doesn't get the recognition that he should have, and we all know why. And I don't want to really get into it in this video, but I'm gonna really go ahead and really discuss the whole momentum of the song of the song Don't Be Cruel, because I really think it's very, 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 very important. So I want to give a background first about how Don't Be Cruel came about. The year is 1988, and a young man named Bobby Brown is 19 years old. 2 years prior, he gets kicked out of his own group called New Edition. And New Edition, they go on to make other albums, and they get another guy to replace him named Johnny Gill, who was a solo artist prior to joining the group. We all know that it helped his career, and it really propelled him to come out with his own debut album. But Bobby Brown kind of had a hard time because he had a stigma with being, oh, you're a bad boy, because you could even get along with your own group mates. So you have no choice but to either do your own thing or go back to the block. And if you remember the miniseries, they had him where he was actually doing drug deals in Roxbury, Boston. Now, he gets signed to MCA for his own solo deal. He has a solo album, and he has a song called Girlfriend. Girlfriend is a hit on the R&B charts. It even goes number 1. But it does nothing on the pop charts. It doesn't crack. The album, from what I remember reading, the album, it went gold, but it didn't go platinum. So when he's coming out with the second album, it's really like, you got to do this. It's either you got to do this or you're done. So he knows that I got to have hits. I can't just go platinum. I got to go multi-platinum on this, because I got to prove my bandmates wrong, number 1. I got to prove the haters in the industry wrong. And 2, I got to prove myself right. 3. And so he knows I'm on the right label, but I had the wrong production team on my last album. I need hit makers. because I really want to go down in history as one of the greats to have ever done it. So he gets a duo that is part of a band, and they're part of a band, and the band is called The Deal. But the duo is a production team, and their names are Kenny Babyface Edmonds and Antonio L.A. Reid. And they produce a song for him called Don't Be Cruel. Now, Don't Be Cruel is a song that would go on to become the title track of his album. And it was written and produced by, once again, Kenny Babyface Edmonds and Antonio L.A. Reid. Now, if you remember hearing the song, you notice you heard a lot of production in it that was very much R&B, but heavily influenced by hip hop. And I'm going to go into a different direction, and I'm going to talk about why that was important. A year prior, there was a young man in Harlem that comes out with a musical genre that is part of R&B, but it started to grow and become even so big that it had its own genre. And the young man's name is Teddy Riley, and he's a Harlem native who comes from St. Nicholas Projects. And he creates this genre of music that is called New Jack Swing. And it's influenced by R&B, hip hop, jazz, which is very important. That's how you get the swing part, the jazz, and a little bit of classical piano in there too, believe it or not. It has a lot of string instruments, a lot of brass instruments, with the flutes. He used a lot of flutes. Like, he used a lot of traditional instruments that you would use in classical music. He used it in New Jack Swing, and the man is a musical genius. He plays 5 instruments, and he is self-taught. He releases a song the year prior called Right or Wrong Way that is sung by Keith Sweat. The song cracks the R&B top 10, and I believe it reaches number 2. Quote me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I will change it. But it's a big hit, and it's a number 1 hit in New York. And I was 3 years old when this song came out. And I remember the fuss about Keith Sweat. And I remember the fuss about Teddy Riley. Teddy Riley goes on to pretty much come out with his own group called God. And they do big things. But he does bigger things with his own group. By himself. Than with the other people. Than with his other group. And I pretty much love New Jack Swing. I love R&B, but I really love New Jack Swing. And I love New Jack Swing because, for me, it's something that, it was something so different because I grew up listening to it. And there wasn't really a lot of sampling. All the music was just fresh. It was organic. And it is the last true genre of R&B music. It really is. It's the last true genre of R&B. And it doesn't really get a lot of respect by the mainstream, even though the mainstream media saw a way that they could make money off of it. But at the time, Keith Sweat was a new artist. So he wasn't what you could say pop friendly at that time. Here you have this young man who's already known. He's a teen. He was in a teen group. And he's trying to basically, get his recognition. It's like, I want to go down as one of the greats like Michael Jackson, Luther Vandross. But I really want to go down like Michael Jackson and Prince because they're big at the time. So, this single goes number 1 on the R&B charts. Now, yes, Keith Sweat's single, I Want Her, goes number 1 before his. And his single, I Want Her, which is New Jack Swing, does crack the top 5. It cracks the top 5. It's a big hit. And I'm not going to take anything away from Keith Sweat because I have to mention him too. But the reason why I have to mention Bobby Brown is because Bobby Brown's single, Don't Be Cruel, made it so that people were talking about this new genre. And it was like, you gotta take notice of this. This New Jack Swing thing is no joke. But what Bobby did that was totally different from Keith Sweat's I Wanna was that in Don't Be Cruel, Bobby Brown added an element into R&B music that had never been really done before on a major level. And what that was he started rapping on the track. And he had 2 rap verses in that song, as well as a bridge where he was singing. And that was very monumental because at that time, people hated rap music. Mainstream people didn't really respect it. And this was way before the vulgarity was coming out. It was like, we don't see the talent in it. We just see it as a fad. We don't really see it as something that's going to go down to be a great genre. We know different now. But at that time, 30 years ago, we was thinking like, it's a fad. These are young kids. They're going to grow out of it. They're going to go back and get regular jobs, or, they're going to hit the block, or they're not going to be shit either way. They're going to go up on their mother's couch and whatnot. But he did something different. And the difference that he did was really impacting because other people started following suit. When that song hit, I was 4 years old. I remember the impact. He was on Soul Train. I remember seeing it on Soul Train. And I remember watching the video every single day after school when I was in kindergarten. The rotation of that video, even on MTV, is what helped the song not just go number 1 for 2 weeks. It also became a pop crossover hit. That summer, it went number 1. And it was number 1 for 2 consecutive weeks. But in the week of October the 15th, 1988, it finally peaked at number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100. And that was important. And I thought that this is his first solo hit to reach the top 10. And he finally was able to say, I can now really be a legitimate solo star. You can now take me serious. But what was to come after that was other singles. His next single, My Prerogative, would not just go number 1 on the R&B charts. It went number 1 on the pop charts. And he made history as having the first New Jack Swing song go number 1 on a national chart. That was big. Bobby Brown is a history maker. And his song in that album, Don't Be Cruel, changed the music industry. It changed R&B. And it changed the course of what it was. Because at that time, you had to be like 3 black men. You had to be like Michael Jackson, Prince, or Luther Vandross. You couldn't be any other. Stevie Wonder was in his own lane. And I don't want to say it, but because he was blind, nobody really expected people to be like Stevie Wonder. But you was expected to be like the 3. If you couldn't be like the 3, nobody really cared about you. They didn't really want you to carve your own niche. At that time, we had people who really, and I love him. People were talking about George Michael, and I love George Michael. I really do. But Bobby Brown was able to not just carve his own niche. He did something from that whole song and with the video. He took an element from The Way You Make Me Feel, where he was walking around pursuing the love lady down the street. And the video was filmed in Boston. He took an image of that. And what I'm going to say is that he took an image of it. He took an image of that. And what he did was he projected black masculinity that had never been done on a music video before. I'm not talking about masculinity. I'm talking about black masculinity. And that's very important. And he was a young man. He was 19 years old. And if you remember the 1980s, you had a lot of glam rock elements and R&B performances. And I never felt comfortable with seeing black men with eyeliner. I never liked that shit. I thought that was so tacky. But in the late 80s, you see R&B male artists taking their masculinity back and like, hey, wait a minute. We not with that glam rock shit. We not with it. And Bobby Brown was one of those first artists to really, dance and do the grind. And you see in the video of Don't Be Cruel, he got his arms wrapped around the lady and he's singing, oh, girl. And, he's doing all that. And he's at the candlelight with the dinner. And it's a candlelight. And he's singing to her passionately. That had never been really seen before in a video and with a song at that magnitude. And this song and this video was number one on BET. And it's like this young man, I don't think he probably realized that was going to be that big. I know he wanted it to be big, but I don't think even Bobby Brown really could see like, hey, I'm a pop star now. Even though this album is not a pop album. This is an R&B album. This is a New Jack Swing album. And even though everybody's doing this new genre, my album is the one that's going to take this genre to the next level. And that's what it did. And it was with that song that kicked it off. And if you start looking at R&B videos from the summer of 1988 up until, I would say, even going into the 2000s, you start seeing black masculinity being projected everywhere. It was like you start seeing the intimacy with the man and the woman. You start seeing it. And it's not really a problem anymore. And I grew up seeing it and I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Maybe there was one or two videos I was like, okay, it's a little bit overdone into like a freaky way. I wasn't into like the freaky stuff, but like the romanticism part, I was like, yes. And for me, I gotta say that I love the song Don't Be Cruel. And I love the album. And I love the song Roni. And I love Every Little Step I Take. He was the first artist after Michael Jackson to have every single song that he released off of his album to enter the top 10 on the pop charts. Out of those songs, 3 of them went number 1 on the R&B charts. Okay? And just the momentum, and also 2 of them, one goes into the top 5. No, 2 of them goes to the top 5 and 1 becomes a national number 1 hit. This album was big and it goes on to sell 7 million copies. Okay? Now, we all know what happened down the line with the young man's career. But what we have to say is in 1998, 30 years ago, this young man's career was on a come up. And this young man was doing big things. Did you know that Don't Be Cruel was the second best selling R&B album by a male artist after Thriller? You didn't know that. Nobody really talks about that. It's the second best selling R&B album after Michael Jackson's Thriller. That's how big this album was. Because it was one song. And what it shows is that if you make the right hits, you get the right results. You get the right production. You get the right results. And he goes on to win a Grammy Award for this album. And he sells 7 million copies in the United States. The album also spent 6 weeks at the Billboard Top 100. And I have to say that according to Wikipedia, they say that the song was released on May the 17th, but I actually like May 17th. I don't know why, but what I'm going to say is people saying May 16th, Wikipedia is saying May 17th. And Wikipedia is saying May 17th, they're saying May 17th. So I'm going to say tomorrow. But still, I feel as though it was this week. We don't know what day. We don't know the actual day, but they say May 17th. I just noticed it, looking it up. But I'm gonna say that regardless, this whole album was a life changer in music. And I feel, and this is my opinion, I feel as though this song should be inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. This song really should be discussed. His album should be discussed at universities, music programs. I think the problem with a lot of the reason why genres like New Jack Swing don't really get the credit that it deserves is because a lot of the artists that were born, who grew up to sing New Jack Swing music, with the exception of Keith Sweat, they were born post-civil rights. And a lot of people, both black and white, they don't really like the children that are born after segregation. If you notice, if you're born during like the Black Power era, you're looked upon as the villain of the story. But if you're born before, like Michael Jackson, he's born during segregation. Prince was born during segregation. Whitney Houston was born during segregation. And I just have to throw that in. I'm just saying, they're not looked upon as the bad people. They're spoken about in a certain way. But even Janet Jackson, who's born post-segregation, even she's spoken about. She was spoken about differently before the whole, ripped off the nipple thing, happened. So I believe that's why New Jack Swing never got the credit, because the person who founded it, he was born in 1967. So it's a lot of things that when you look at how the media portrays people, it's usually around the time that they're born that they're either favored or they're criticized. So with that being said, that's my take on the song Don't Be Cruel. And I just want to shout out that Don't Be Cruel, the album, was the best-selling album of 1989 in the United States and finished at number 1 on the Billboard year-end album charts. And the song Don't Be Cruel Okay, see, that's the thing. See, now they're saying that it was released May 16th. I'm just going to stick with May 16th. I'm going to stick with May 16th. I was right. It was released May 16th. Please don't criticize me for doing this, guys. The song was May 16th, 1988. Case closed. So, the song basically, it becomes a big hit, and that's in the story. It even charts on the UK charts. And like I said before, it changes history. And I'm just going to say that what the song does, more importantly, is that it allows a lot of R&B songs that are hip-hop influenced to be able to cross over onto the mainstream national charts. And you see it a lot, not so much in the 80s, but it's evident in the 1990s and 2000s. But it's real big in the 1990s. And on that note, this is your girl, Miss Analytical, signing off. I just want to say thank you for listening to this video and being educated about music, particularly in the R&B genre. R&B is something I'm very passionate about. I have a lot of love for it, and I feel it's the greatest genre that was ever created. And I don't believe it is, like they say, that it's, gone. I believe that it's just asleep. But we can revive it. It's up to us. But thanks for listening to the Don't Be Cruel video. Thanks for watching it on YouTube. Thanks for listening to it on Spreaker. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel on YouTube titled Miss Analytical. Don't forget to follow me on Spreaker.com. Hit that subscribe bell. And make sure that you comment on the video. And I welcome all comments. And on that note, take care, everybody, and have a good night.